Every November, we seem to have a planned disruption of our wellness program. We tend to throw in the towel right around Thanksgiving and hope to mitigate the damage in January. Well, what if I told you with a simple 3-step plan, you can not only survive the holidays, but thrive? Fitness success in the holidays. Today on the Personal Edge Fitness Podcast.
Welcome to the Personal Edge Fitness Podcast
with Garrett Williamson.
Health, wellness, exercise, nutrition, and a whole lot more. Got questions? Call us and leave a message at 251-278-EDGE or message us at Personal Edge Fitness on Facebook and Instagram, at Team PE on Twitter, or personaledgefitness.com.
Thank you so much for joining me today on the Personal Edge Fitness Podcast. And I'm going to speak to you today about surviving the holidays and even thriving in the holidays with a simple 3-step plan. And I also have a program that I want to tell you about that you can take part in no matter where you may be located to help you launch a fantastic new year and basically changing your shape and changing your nutrition. I'll talk about that as we get going with this program. I had a client, this was back in 97, and I really learned a lot about success through the holidays because of his approach. I really liked what he did. He took a very different approach than most people. Now, typically, right around Thanksgiving, right around November, we tend to start to taper off on our fitness program. Even our weekend warriors, there's maybe a turkey trot going on, but there's not a big racing season. For those like myself that are multisport athletes, there's not a whole lot of racing going on, so we're in a off season. There's a lot of distractions going on besides the holidays. There are kids in schools. They're handling exams at this time. Football season in the U.S. is going on pretty strong. And, of course, we have the holidays. So we tend to let our fitness program kind of go by the wayside because we have this light at the end of the tunnel. And we call it January 1. We're going to make New Year's resolutions. We're going to reinvent the world and have all kinds of amazing things happen. Now, I'll get back to my client in just a minute. I get a chance usually every January to speak somewhere on, of course, health, fitness, and wellness. As far as New Year's resolutions are concerned, it is in the top 2 New Year's resolutions. Number 1 resolution is getting organized. Number 2 is, of course, getting in shape. And I always introduce in that talk a fantastic toast that one of my friends shared with us at a New Year's Eve party. And he raised his glass and he said, "May your problems in the new year last as long as your New Year's resolutions do." I always found that a bit funny because there's a lot of truth in it. And the reason I bring that up is the fact that during the holiday season, we usually let these things fall by the wayside because oh my Lord, we have this light at the end of the tunnel. January 1, I'm going to become a new person. I'm going to conquer all these goals. And then, well, the thought process behind that toast kind of comes into play because somewhere around February, many of us have already forgotten our New Year's resolutions. But this particular client of mine had a great approach. And what he did instead of waiting until January was he started making a difference around December. He realized that in his particular line of work, there were a lot of things going on socially, but that time of year wasn't a super busy time of year at work. And so, of course, he had holiday plans, which are usually pretty happy. I know it can be quote-unquote a stressful time, but he found the shopping and the things he did with his family he really enjoyed. He didn't put the mouth on it and make them miserable. He thought of it, of course, this is a good time for us to spend time together. And he actually took that time to focus on his fitness. He would always increase the days that he came in for cardiovascular work during that time. He saw it as an opportunity. He didn't take the typical approach and accepted behavior of that time of year. Instead, he flipped the script a bit. And he decided to attack his fitness at that time. And his results were tremendous. By the time January came in, he had the same motivation that everyone has at that time of the year. Brand new year, clean slate. He had that, but he already had a month and a half worth of success to launch from. So he had a head start. He basically picked up a head of steam in January because he was already rolling along. Now, we can learn from that approach. I'm not so sure that everybody's got or feels like they have the time to really attack it during that season as far as upping your exercise or starting your New Year's resolution. But you can make a plan. And there are simple ways of mitigating the season. In the fitness industry, of course, we love to see January coming. We know that it's going to be a time when we typically pick up clients, everybody excited to make changes. With a lot of gyms, they're offering all kinds of discounts, they're starting all kinds of programs, and usually our In It to Lose It program in January is our biggest. And of course, our Catalyst program usually launched shortly thereafter. It is usually the most well-attended program. Our attendance of our clientele, we have a less than 1% absentee rate, but even that falls to absolutely nothing during that time of year. We usually have a big boost of clients, and of course we all get excited about that. But I have to say, as a personal trainer, that I would love for everybody to get started a little bit earlier. Not so much for the new business, but just for their success. Because when a client's successful, that's what we thrive on. That's what we live for. That is the passion of our business. And so I'm going to talk to you today about this, what I call a 3-step plan. And this 3-step plan, actually, the concept comes from in English class. Now, I happen to have a minor in English. I have the hours to make a minor. The college that I went to, University of Georgia, didn't give minors, but I have enough hours to qualify for a minor in English. And I come by, honestly, my love for English, honestly, because of my mother happened to have a master's degree from the University of North Carolina and was an English teacher. Raised us all in poetry and some fantastic literature, and therefore I like to write. I had a great English teacher in the 7th grade. And it was the first time that we ever had to write what we called just a paper, and basically it's an essay, something more than a paragraph, where we had to pick a topic, break it down, explain it, and then, of course, conclude. And he did a fantastic diagram of how to write that paper, but he also taught us a lot about literature. And when we were reading Steinbeck and Hemingway and some other fantastic authors, he taught us about rising action, climax, and denouement. Now, I'm going to use that same concept of rising action, climax, and denouement to explain how to navigate the holiday season. We'll start off with that rising action. And this is the part where you basically make a plan. Now, just like my client I was telling you about that started to exercise even more and took hold of his wellness program, really grabbed it by the horns and kicked off his New Year's resolutions during the holiday season, this is the time when you're going to sit back and say, okay, it's easy enough to just look at the holidays as one big blur and throw in the towel. Oh my gosh, this is a season I'm going to be eating every 5 seconds. I'm going to be going to parties. I've got friends coming over. There's just no way I can do anything. Instead of doing that, look at the reality of it. Like I say, it's easy to make it a blur. It's easy to blow things out of proportion, but look at the reality of it. You aren't eating every second. You aren't going to functions every single night. You've got to pick and choose. You've got to figure what is actually an occasion where you want to overindulge. You want to splurge a bit. And actually write those down. Of course, in the U.S., I would say Thanksgiving Day. That's going to be a day. There's going to be one meal there that we're going to probably overindulge, taking a few extra calories. So write that down. That would be one day. You've got Christmas Day. You've got maybe the first night of Hanukkah, you've got New Year's Day, office party, a certain family get-together. You've got those particular days. You know what they are. You typically know them well in advance. So write those days down. Not only that, underneath that, break it down in outline form. Write down what event occurs on those days. Because it's easy for us to assume, oh my Lord, Christmas Day, I'm going to be eating the entire, from right when I wake up till when I go to sleep. And that's not really true. Usually there's a certain meal that goes on at that time. There's a certain traditions that you follow. And you want to write those down, figure out what actions actually occur those days. What you're going to find by writing these things down, these interruptions, which is basically what we're talking about, and when I say interruptions, I'm talking about as far as your fitness and wellness program. These are wonderful interruptions, and I celebrate them in my life. I have plenty of traditions my family follows during this time of year, and don't want you to miss out on any of them. But if you write them down, you'll see that they are not as overburdensome as we actually like to make them feel like they are. If you start to jot them down, you'll see how they can be somewhat categorized, they can be somewhat controlled. And then you're going to back up and look at, okay, well, if I'm going to overindulge on, let's say, Thanksgiving, and we're going to overindulge at the midday meal, well then, how am I going to mitigate that? How am I going to offset what I'm going to do so I can enjoy those times. I can enjoy that meal. What does my day look like that day? I mean, if I've got duties associated with the event itself, okay, when is that going to happen? And when could I possibly store a few extra calories to offset that meal? Now, what I mean by storing calories is this is why the turkey trot is so famous during Thanksgiving, which I'm a big fan of, and that is people going out typically doing a 5K run so that they can justify an overindulgence at the midday meal. Not really a bad plan, but mainly because it is a plan. And you can do the same thing, whether you go out for a walk, whether you get a workout in that morning, whether you offset the noontime meal by having a smaller meal at breakfast or smaller meal at dinner. Any of those are examples of plans to mitigate what you're going to do, how you're going to celebrate, how you're going to enjoy that midday meal. And this same concept goes for each one of the events that you have outlined in that first rising action part of the plan. Break each one of those down. As you start to break these down, what you're going to see is that it's not so overburdening, it's not so time-consuming as we think it is. We give the holiday season way too much credit for monopolizing our lives. When we actually, if we step back and just like with anything that we want to be successful at, if we put a good plan into place, we can mitigate that time. We can have a successful holiday season as far as our health and wellness is concerned. Now, a lot of this deals with calories. Of course, that's one of the biggest problems and concerns that we have during the holiday season, but also falling off of our routine. And if you're worried about that in the rising action phase, in the second part of your outline, you want to address your exercise. If your exercise program, there's no reason why it has to be interrupted. You happen to do it during a time of day that really, except for maybe a couple of days during the entire season, if it doesn't get interrupted, then you really don't have a whole lot to do. You want to write something down at that time. I want to maintain my time of day, my workout that I'm doing, and be detailed in writing that down. Don't just write, I'm going to maintain my workout program. Maintain my 5 a.m. session with my trainer 3 days a week. That's not going to change except for these 2 days, Christmas Day because they're closed, or New Year's Day because I'll be out of town. Whatever it is, you want to write that down so that you've made a commitment to yourself to hold steady in your exercise. But what if you have a major disruption? What if you've got family in town and you're not able to break away? Okay, we need to make a plan to do what I call keep the ball in the air. Maybe the holiday season is not going to be your time to make major improvements, but at least you can stay where you are. You can keep from atrophying muscle, and you can keep from going backwards. And that can be done through simple cardiovascular work. It can be done through simple calisthenics, simple 5 to 10 minute routines. We build them all the time for our clients that you can do at home to make sure that you're maintaining muscle tone throughout your body, not going backwards whatsoever, and being able to handle the holiday season. If you need help with that, we'll be glad to set something up like that for you. It's very simple to do. You can do it with equipment, without equipment, some very simple things that you can purchase, or like I say, like the majority of our online clients, you can do it with no equipment whatsoever. You can contact me at Garrett, Garrett, at personaledgefitness.com, and I'll be more than glad to help you put that together. But if you've got family in town, then I highly recommend you involve them. And here's why. The main excuse that you're going to use is, I've got family in town, here is my interruption. They're a built-in interruption. Well, what if we flip the script on that? What if we made it an opportunity? For instance, I did an online session a few months ago with one of my senior clients, and just for fun, we surprised her with involving 3 of her family members who are located all around the nation, and they actually got involved with her during the workout. She had a blast, thought it was a lot of fun. It wasn't her son's best workout. It wasn't her daughter's best workout, but it was an activity they got to do together. They enjoyed it, and I'm quite certain none of them went backwards. They probably maintain their level of fitness. Well, if you've got family coming in town, you've got plans that you want to spend time together, then set up and look for the opportunities to involve them. If you're in have a gym membership, contact the gym and see if they'll allow them to have a guest pass to come in and work out with you. Many times, we love seeing this, we have, during the holiday season, we'll have clients that'll bring in a family friend or a relative and have them work out with the client. We enjoy it because they're having a lot of fun. We enjoy meeting the different family members, or as with our college students, seeing them come back and spend a week or two with us and working out. We enjoy it, but also it gives you a reason to succeed and not to fail. Now it's the rising action phase, which is basically a planning phase. Now I say that we have the climax phase. And the climax is when the day actually happens, when the events actually occur, when we have Christmas Day, or we have the first day of Hanukkah, or we have New Year's Day. And at that point in time, one of the two things you need to do, review your plan and plan for pivot. Now, here's what I mean by that. You want to break out your plan that you've written up during the rising action phase, and you actually want to read it that day. If you have to go into a room and read it out loud to yourself, you've got to stay committed. It's not enough to make the plan in the rising action phase. In order for it to be successful, you've got to, of course, put it into place. The way to do that, get up first thing, review that plan, hold yourself to it, and set up for a pivot. Now, here's what I mean. Setting up for a pivot is, everything was going great, and then Aunt Judy came by. I had no idea. And because we're creatures of habit, if we've done this during the holiday season where we create the holiday season in our mind as a blur and there's nothing we can do about it, well, when we have a disruption, we tend to revert back to that same behavior. We tend to revert back, I had a great plan, but, everything got blown strictly because this one thing happened. Well, you want to make sure you've got a backup. Even if your whole day is blown, you can do something on the next day. You can make a change the next day. You can make a change in caloric consumption at another meal. You can make a change in your fitness program for that day. Let's say you didn't get your walk in that day and your resistance training. Well, okay, then the next day when you were planning on getting a walk, pick up your resistance training then. Know when that's going to happen. Plan your pivot. And then, of course, put your plan into place. You'll feel much better going through this process. You'll feel much better after the rising action because you'll have a plan. You'll be able to treat the holiday season as it is in reality instead of seeing the blur that you've seen in the past, which creates stress. Having a plan gives you a sense of control, puts you in a position where you feel like, okay, I've got control of my success here. Now, the last part of this is what I call the denouement. Now, the denouement in this is after the holiday season and when January 1st starts, and that's when your New Year's resolutions come into place, what's going to happen then? How are we going to continue on with our plan, our successful plan that we put in place during the holidays? Now, this is something going back to my client that I told you that set up for success during the holidays. He knew exactly where he was going to be on January 1. He had goals that he had set during the rising action phase and put into place during the climax phase that he was able to continue on with in January. One of the things that he did was he would start a cutting back or a diet program, what have you, in January, but he would keep the ball in the air and start either offsetting calories through reduction of meals prior to a big meal or by increasing his exercise. So he gained some control during the holiday season because he had planned in his denouement, he had plans to get involved with this particular program. By getting involved in this particular program, like our In It to Lose It program, he was prepped, he was ready, he wasn't starting cold turkey. And so the denouement for him is a continuation, which is what I want it to be for you. I don't want January 1 to be a new start so much as it is a continuation of what you've already been involved in. But it's reinvigorating. Instead of being a new start, it is another push, another motivating factor. Having that clean set, having that mindset, and think of how much better you'll feel at that time of that January 1 when you would typically be starting fresh and go, oh my gosh, where do I start working out? Where do I go? I have no idea how to start. I want to start really slow because I'm so out of shape. Instead of having that thought process, if you'd put your rising action and climax plan into place during the holiday season, think of how much better you'll feel on January 1. And you ought to have a plan for that denouement. Know exactly what you're going to next. Know exactly what new thing you're going to start, or if nothing else, how you're going to ramp up your program. How you're going to continue on from what you started in the rising action and climax phase. Now, I have a huge recommendation here. This is where our In It to Lose It program would greatly benefit anybody. The In It to Lose It program is a program that's a derivative of our Catalyst program. Our Catalyst is our 16-week lifestyle change program, and this is a program that shows you why there is absolutely no such thing as the lie of good food and bad food. It shows you how you can not only lose weight, but you can keep it under control for the rest of your life. How it shows you the truth about how we are actually in control of our food, of our wellness, of our calories, and what have you. And the In It to Lose It program is a brief 2-week, what I call introduction into that program. Now, the In It to Lose It program, if you're interested in that, and of course the Catalyst program, they're both weight loss programs. The In It to Lose It program, we usually see on average 12.5 pounds lost in the 2 weeks. In the Catalyst program, we see on average between 35 and 45. Now, it's a big change, but it depends on the person, pounds lost. But that's not the most important part of either one of these programs. The mental change that you go through, the feeling that you get of control in this program is something unlike you've ever felt if you've had a challenge dealing with weight. And so we're going to be starting the In It to Lose It program in the second week of January. And you can do this whether you're in the Southeast or if you're anywhere in the world. We can actually set you up and get you involved in this program. It is highly successful, comes highly recommended by those who've participated in it. And we have people that actually get in the In It to Lose It program on a monthly basis. It is a way to keep themselves in check. Very inexpensive, very easy to handle, and it's a way to keep control. They use to keep control of their calories and basically keeping their fitness and wellness in control. Now, if you do this program, you like it, and you feel you want to go a little further and learn the entire truth behind the truth about food, the truth about nutrition, and the fact that there is no such thing as bad food, well, shortly thereafter, we're going to be starting a Catalyst program. So we'll be just continuing on with what you started with In It to Lose It. Please don't look this year at the holidays as something to dread. We create a lot of stress, and we create a rather uncomfortable time because we fear the holidays because of what we feel is going to happen to us as far as our bodies are concerned, as far as our fitness and wellness is concerned. Start that rising action and make the plan. Put it in place during the climax phase and make sure you know where you're going once you get to the aftermath or denouement, which would be the first of the years. I hope everybody has a wonderful holiday season. And if I can help you with this or any fitness and wellness topic, or if you're interested in joining the In It to Lose It program, I highly suggest you contact us at Garrett, Garrett, at personaledgefitness.com. Call us at our mobile location, which is 251-341-0927, or you can contact Josh, our Eastern Shore manager, at 251-651-0927. Highly encourage, if you're interested in that In It to Lose It program, you contact us post haste because spots are filling up already for that program. Thank you so much for joining me. Happy holidays, everybody.
Thanks for listening to the Personal Edge Fitness Podcast with Garrett Williamson. Subscribe now and be a part of the show by calling 251-278-EDGE or message us on Facebook and Instagram at Personal Edge Fitness or at Team PE on Twitter, and visit us at personaledgefitness.com.